lone segment of the bridge rises over the ruins of an ancient city. Looks stable enough, but the wide gap leaves little room for error. Jump to the freestanding segment. Adolf gets a running start and leaps over the gap. However, Adolf cries out upon landing, collapses on the other side, in a tangle of limbs. Ah, crud. Are you okay, Adolf? Yes, I'll survive. Purpose that served. Oh, tracks. Sorry about that. Let's jump back. Adolf misjudged it again. Oh, crud. We're gonna have to take a break. I'm sorry about that, buddy. I bust your hand now. Alright, yeah, we're gonna rest up. Sorry. Sorry about that. No more jumping. Yes, please do. No more jumping. For some reason. Well, that's not what I expected. Well, at least give me this. See what have these guys been doing? Guatin spirits. What they are? Shades. Shade. Shadow. Shades. Can it a freezing touch? Can it teleport? It'll try to draw spiritual energy from us if we're not careful. They have a freezing touch. Alright. Best guard us. We need some sort of protection from these guys. Not yet. Come what's for, Pelagina. Bury him. Hold on, Pellegrina.
It's no use.
Probably that thing. Forget about that, Durnt. Got Drake coming in. Erik, get on this beast. Forget about that.
I need something stronger.
Doesn't exist. I need something stronger. It does not exist, believe me. Not this thing fly, Eddard. What are you trying to do, you little fool? Nice work, Alof. Green Mother, let's see, Green Mother. I'll knock your bones loose of you. I knocked the bones loose on you, didn't it? Go ahead, drop the hammer on him.
I'm ready.
Drop the hammer on him. Trying to drop the hammer on us. He'll be half dead already. Thing should be a ghost already.
I'm ready.
Disintegration. 270. Drop the hammer on him. He's melting from the inside out. There's nothing left of him. Try to run off after we melted him. There was nothing left of him.
As you wish.
All right, let's go. Here we are.
ready to take the oath, to spread the word of the gods to the lost and heathen. I am trusting you to remain loyal to the gods in this. If you do not, you will have greater powers than me to answer to. But you will answer to me as well. I wouldn't ask this were there any other choice.
This is a missionary, same as I was. Taught the wrong things as I was. Oceanus. They have held off many would-be invaders.
All my memories.
You are ready to give a confession?
No.
I'm ready to hear one from you.
Let us face them. Memory of the ancients. Statues warm to the touch. You've come to a circular room, grand and domed. Its walls lined with Adra, trimmed with copper. At the far end, a great pillar of Adra pierces the floor from below like a jagged spike, its shimmering texture giving the illusion of boundless depth. Your thoughts are yours, not yours, and they are all questions. At the base of the pillar stands Thaos, a look of concern on his face as he notes your approach. You have something you want to ask him, one question above all others, spinning madly in your mind, but you don't dare ask it yet. You need some admission from him, some hint of the veracity of your suspicions.
You are far from your post, Inquisitor. What brings you here?
What is this place?
We are in a sanctum holy to Utica. There are others like it in service to the other gods. I come here often to pray for her counsel, and in this space I may be assured that she hears me.
Was Evilar telling the truth?
That woman sought only to destroy the foundations of peace and civility that my people sacrificed everything to build.
That machine behind you, what does it do?
It has many uses, but its purpose is to bring structure to the chaos that surrounds it.
All of these statues, who are they of?
They are monuments to Utica's greatest servants among my people. I hope to join them myself one day, but my work is not yet complete.
So the entire Inquisition was based on a lie.
The Inquisition was based on the need to cut the flesh from a rotting wound.
You're shaking now, having lost all patience for tact. No more evasions. You have to know everything you believe, everything you've done for the gods. Did you lie to me when you said the gods could end suffering? Dale says nothing. Are there no gods?
What is a god? Hmm? A higher power? A rewarder of good deeds and punisher of the wicked? Something men can turn to in their darkest moments when their days seem only like bridges from one tragedy to the next. Our gods are all these things.
Our gods. With Thaos, every word you find yourself losing control of a boiling cauldron of rage and doubt and fear and hopelessness till you can take it no more. Are there no gods?
We are in a sacred place within earshot of the gods themselves. This is not the time. You've been through much these past few months. You will return home and you will rest. When you feel you have recovered, you may rejoin us at the trials. The Inquisition is far from over, and I will have need of you.
You're insane.
There are many who continue to spread the lies of the apostate. The Inquisition will not end until we have pronounced judgment on all of them.
His eyes linger on you, and there's no mistaking the threat behind it. And your rage shrinks at the image of an iron wheel in your mind. Monolithic, caked with dry blood of thousands. You do not ask your question again. So...
How did you find it?
I didn't. It was Lady Webb.
Another in a string of acts of petty defiance. For all her knowledge, she always preferred spite over reason.
It was reason that guided her hand in this.
Then she should have obeyed. I ask one thing of all my followers. She was incapable. A waste of rare talent and intellect.
Blind obedience is a lot to ask of someone with a mind of their own.
What of your cohorts, then? They have followed you to their deaths. Is it loyalty that brings them here? Or is it, as my agents suggest, that they have no direction of their own? You worshipped Aethys, did you not?
Your spies are good. What gave me away? The cape?
Yet when your god needed you the most, you chose your country.
We were being invaded. Not by anyone who was acting like a god.
Then I should think your hometown gave you a hero's welcome when you returned.
Well, they made cake. And I think you can expect folks to get jumpy when the gods aren't there to reassure them. Maybe if they weren't all too busy trying to kill each other.
The gods argue over how best to prevent Kith society from destroying itself. These disruptions would not be necessary were mortal instinct not so diseased.
Dern stares at Thaos with a beast snarl. Thaos watches him calmly.
You built a weapon that delivered exactly as promised.
I served my goddess as you did yours.
Yet the other builders were slain, 11 of a dozen. Why not you? Were you somehow different? Redeemable in your god's sight?
Whatever desire I had to be redeemed in her eyes was weakness, purged by the Watcher's sight.
Or was it merely that your goddess wanted you dead as well, and your delusions of importance prevented you from seeing the obvious?
A whore's beguiling charms, nothing more. But the spell's broke now, Thaos. The trial's over. I know friend from foe, and I've come here now to see a foe repaid.
You were able to destroy a god because another god wished it. Without her hand to guide you, you could not strike at a god any more than you could strike the sky. You are impotent, and not just from the pox. I understand your Duke's bells gave you a mission.
Theo's sudden interest causes Pelagian's feathers to ruffle.
Their orders do not absolve me of my greater responsibility to the safety and well-being of the republics.
You might want to skip over this one, Thaos. Don't want to pick a fight that you can't win.
Yet you disobeyed. Something you already have a reputation for. They will know, of course. If it had been for a worthy cause, they might have forgiven you. But I don't see them pursuing animancy after seeing what it's done here. They trusted you, and you disappointed, as you always have. And you will again be disowned.
The parents scold, but the children are safe. Whether animancy research continues in the republics or not, they will survive. For now, that's enough. In any case, I wouldn't be so smug about my fate, Thaos. I imagine Woodica responds to disappointment much more severely than even my dukes.
She takes a long step forward, a sinister smile spreading across her face.
State your name and purpose, young acolyte.
My name belonged to the gods and my hand to their service. No more.
Adolf's eyes darken.
You serve none but yourself. Without contact with your order, you can have no higher purpose. Only the base concerns of the flesh. You have cast yourself from our ranks.
And I should have done it years before. I'd rather live in uncertainty than servitude.
And that uncertainty would lead you where it leads everyone. To doubt, to emptiness, to the many cruelties inspired by disbelief. You will have to forgive your Grandmaster for remaining skeptical of his initiate's choices. You are here because you are lost. The gods cannot reach everyone, I'm afraid. May you fare better in your next lives.
He directs his gaze at you.
I gather you have had your soul awakened. Why else would you shadow my footsteps like some stray mongrel? You think I have something to offer you, but our business was concluded long ago.
What do you know of our business?
You think your abilities only flow in one direction. That isn't how it works, I'm afraid. Not for me. For all that you saw of my soul in the sanitarium, I saw as much of yours.
One of us is going to die in this room. You may as well admit you lied to me before that.
I answered your questions once. That your soul is not fit to accept the answers is of little concern to me. I lied to no one. Not to you, not to anyone. The gods are real. They are everything we need them to be, and the world is better for it.
You denied a generation its place in the world.
The heart of this country has skipped a beat. Nothing more. I have done far worse. I plunged the peaceful kingdom of Thaos Ix into civil war. I slew the monarch of Desantio, whose people never knew hardship under his rule, and replaced him with a cruel despot who brought them to ruin.
Skip the beat.
When plague arrived at the great city of Arborensis, I saw to it that the cure did not. They piled their dead outside the city in heaps that rose above their walls.
This is supposed to diminish the damage you've done here?
It is to show the proper perspective. There was a time, back when your soul was still a shapeless mist, when the world believed only in false gods. Thousands of them. Gods that told them to take slaves. Gods that told them to make war upon their neighbors and devour the slain. Gods that told them to burn their children alive and cover themselves in the ashes as a sign of their faith. But all that changed when they learned of the true gods. Our gods. All those misshapen, bestial instincts melted beneath the radiance of our God's majesty. You could see it in their eyes. That dull emptiness replaced with the glimmer of a kindled spark.
Teaching them there were no gods would have achieved the same purpose.
And replaced it with one far worse. Have you imagined this existence? The one the apostate would have created. We are not all so virtuous as she. Without our gods, the most wicked, the most tyrannical, they would take that power for themselves. But more than that, it would be a hollow existence. All mysteries forever unanswered. All purposes constructed from meaninglessness. No endings to bring closure. Only a wheel, turning without mercy, grinding our spirits to dust.
You underestimate people.
For all my years, I have seen exactly what they are capable of. What the apostate asked was beyond any man. All I have seen, the millennia of experience. I will not be dissuaded from this course. This is the only way.
At least admit it. Admit it to me that the gods, your gods, are not true gods. I need to hear it from you.
You have not thought this through. There is no leaving this place for you. I allowed it once, but you have made it all too clear what a mistake my mercy was.
See?
With your soul and thousands of others, I will see this world purged of its suffering. Hear me, Woodica. Your servant calls for aid.
Oh, boy.
Croak 10!
Uh-oh.
Rift.
That's more than I expected. What are these, vessels? Of course they are. Let's see here. Let's see, what's he trying? What's he casting? First thing, be calm. Next thing, don't panic. We have the tools. Eddard, get on this fool right here. Pelagina, make this your mortal enemy. Alright, let's see here now. No. We'll do that first. Let's do that first. That might be a good idea. Okay, let's go. Split him in half, Eddard. He's all yours. Knock a hole through him, Eddard. Perfect. Starting to fade, aren't you, huh? Starting to fade. Starting to fade, huh? So I hit you with this hammer. The hell just happened? Starting to fade, aren't you? Starting to fade. The whole world careening. Starting to fade, aren't you? Starting to fade. Let's see here. Things starting to fade on you, huh? Stop trying your tricks. You're finished, fool. Your tricks will not work. We're gonna blast one of your fools out of existence. I'm about to bury this next fool. Or knock this fool flat. Disintegrate him real good. Lock him in place. Yep. Is that turns? Turns, come over here. He's trying to move. Tear him into pieces, Pelagina. Tear a hole in him, Eddard. They keep trying to wind back time on us. Oh, he's barely injured, huh? You won't be after I hit him with this. Need something to lower his damage resistance. Let's see. That will work. That will work. Oh. Let's need something to lower his damage resistance. Damn near dead, aren't you? He's trying to get back up. Let me give you a vision of the wheel you're so in love with. And to knock this clown flat. And with that full shot, split him wide open. It's reflex. I need something against reflex. I'll also do you nice. Let me know how this feels, Thaos. I gave you a vision of the wheel, didn't I? Let me know how it feels. I'll be back. Beating this thing into death. You just got hit by a vision on the wheel. There's nothing gonna save you. Keep trying moves. It's not working, is it? I'll knock a hole through you. The wheel. Hit the wheel. Hit the wheel. You're finished. At your feet rests the body of Thaos, hollow. The dense wrinkles shaped by a silent shouldering of an eternal burden now smoothed across his colored, drained face. His soul remains still for the moment, defenseless, its energies expended in defeat. It lies sprawled across his body like a death shroud.
That's the servant down, and the mistress still to go. A good start, worthy of being built upon.
Thousands of souls he has tortured. Would that he could live those sufferings 1,000 times himself.
True.
In his own way, Thaos must have truly believed he was caring for the people of Eora, protecting them from themselves. A shame his soul won't have a chance to reflect on his errors before it enters the wheel.
He was good at serving his god, I give him that. But he should have picked a better one.
He spent his lives, more than any of us will ever know. For what? Binding the world to a lie. Could a man like that ever be redeemed?
Let's explore Thaos' soul. With a deep breath, I plunge into Thaos' soul, where in Brackenberry it had been a maze of narrow corridors and dead ends. Now it is expansive and borderless, its walls crumbling into heaps like the ruins of Engwithan. As you pass through them, you travel for what seems like ages, rushing to a known destination, a memory you glimpsed once before. At last you see it, no more than a pinprick of light at the end of a long tunnel, expanding slowly at first, then quickly as you near. You come out in the room you're standing in now, but it is new and pristine, filled with people. Thousands of them all turn towards the great Adra pillar and the machine that encases it. Thaos stands at the machine, and you are one with him now. You look out at the crowd, at faces of shriveled old men and cherub-cheeked little girls, at mothers bouncing infants to quiet them, and fathers clasping their children's restless hands and watching you with a somber acceptance. A woman with tears in her eyes gives you a small nod. You turn back towards the machine, your breaths constricted beneath the weight of unwanted knowledge, preparing yourself to set out alone on a journey without end. You close your eyes and open them again to find the machine still in front of you, beckoning. You take your place in front of it, place your hands upon a large mechanical disc. At the base of a great crystal column, speak a single word. Ingwith. Giant rings creak the light, building speed, setting arrays of carved draconic mouths aglow, and sending tremors through the platform beneath you. The entire room shakes now with the force of the accelerating machine, all sound drowned out by its deep, deafening thrum. Brilliant tendrils of light arc outward from the pillar in all directions, and you look over your shoulder to see them engulfing the crowd, burning them brightly like hot iron. One by one, the tendrils disappear, leaving ash and effigies where people once stood, many of them disintegrating into gray heaps under the stress of the tremors. You look above to the Adra pillar, and a glowing spherical mass has begun to coalesce top to column. Where the arcs converge, it grows and pulses, translucent, bulbous like some immense chrysalis, suspended in slow rotation as though it were being spun from the arcs of light. When the last arc disappears, the spectral mass hangs a moment. No longer rotating, so bright you must shield your eyes with an outstretched hand, and it seems to you as though it is looking at you. You bow your head in acknowledgement, look back up to see it melt into the pillar like warm candle wax. The pillar flares with a flash of light, bright as the sun itself, then fades to black. The machine slows down to abrupt halt. When the last echo of its grinding cogs is past, the chamber is still. You are alone. From all sides, reality begins to bleed in through the memory, and you find yourself in your own skin once more, looking down on Thaos' lifeless body. You sense a listlessness, to Thaos' soul, an overwhelming fatigue that hinders its immediate escape, makes it vulnerable to manipulation. You feel as though your victory has given you some kind of hold over it. You are able to do with it as you please. Banish his soul. Thaos Ix Arkannon. There can be no forgiveness for your deeds, only justice. You shall escape judgment no longer.
To apply the teachings of Durance would more immediately satisfy the cravings in my bones. But this is the stronger lesson, for his soul is already marked by his own hand.
Perhaps this is the best place in the world for Thaos. Somewhere he can't cause further harm. Still, you eventually found the Ovara. What is a few thousand years to someone like him?
You regard Thaos' soul still and subdued. Your pronouncement seems to empower your spirit. Your will seems to know a thick chain, and you wind around Thaos, constraining all movement, eliminating any possible last means of resistance. You call to mind the eternal prison, the vast empty cavern and its cells of Audra, vacated by souls that chose to betray themselves in order to escape an infinite abyss of hopeless self-reflection. You chose a vacant pillar and pour your consciousness into it, creating a perfect, inescapable hollow with space for one. And now you gather up Thaos' spirit, soul, and bear it to the pillow like some bodiless jailer, conjured by justice itself. You can feel its resistance now, the abject terror radiating from it, but your bindings will not be broken. When at last it is sealed away, you begin to recede back to your center. You could almost swear you hear a distant, wordless cry for mercy. In the stillness that follows, a single word echoes through your mind, a word you spoke when you were one with Thaos in ancient memory. You realize it is the word that activates the machine. So we come to the end of our discourse, grieving mother. What do you think?
Thaos may be gone, but his crimes, the wounds he has inflicted, remain. Yet before you lies an opportunity to heal, to restore. Only through the healing of families, repairing the bonds between parent and child, reforging the shattered links between generations, can the Deerwood be knit whole once more.
Of course.
People will long remember the legacy. Let them also remember the healing that followed.
Farewell, my friend.
I'm ready. So much for Thaos, then.
The membranes of Pelagina's golden eyes sweep out and retrace as she glances and gazes at the great machine.
Now you have a chance to set things right, back to the proper order of things. It will take the Deerwood generations to recover, but at least these souls will find their way back to the wheel, as it should be.
Agreed. Alright, Durance.
What? The end of the road greets us at last. You fared well, Watcher. Better than any Watcher has right to. Seems you were afield in need of a flame's cleansing. Would that my own trial had produced such an outcome. I had figured myself for the field all this time. But you were the field, and I the darkness. A lesson neither of Durance nor of Margarin. But with that trial's end, a new one begins. A god's trial. And I will stand in judgment without mercy.
Hey. Thaos, he had hold of your soul from a long time back, seems like. You get what you needed from him?
I got an answer to an old question.
Oh, those can be hard to come by. I feel for people still looking for theirs. Easy to see what it means to them to have someone to look to for answers. You'll be feeling better soon then. Good. That's real good. You got it figured out what you're going to do about all that?
Oh, yes, I do.
Got a lot of people out there thinking they've been abandoned by their gods. There's not much that'll put the fear in you more than that. You can take my word for it. If it was in my power, and I know it's not, but if it was, I'd send every last one of those souls right back where they were supposed to go in the first place. So folks could get back to believing what they used to. And after what you've been through, though, I'm sure you got your own ideas. Better make it good.
Always a threat.
How may I help?
Alright, you're the first one I've met.
Astounding. I always knew the Leaden Key stood for something big, but I didn't quite realize what I'd gotten myself into.
Right.
And now, you're in the middle of something even bigger. The decision that will affect millions. But even if you send the souls somewhere specific now, who knows what the next turn of the wheel will make of them? We can't really control what happens to them. Nor should we try. I had to see the monster Thaos had become to realize that.
Well, I'm not going to leave something this important up to chance.
It's your decision, of course. And whatever you decide, I'm glad our paths crossed in Gilded Vale.
Right. Well, farewell, Alof.
As you wish.
With your companions bearing witness, you step up to the place where Thaos once stood before his peoples long ago. The great machine lies in front of you, idle, ready. You've seen this machine and others like it in operation. You understand how it works. It is the device for directing souls. As a watcher, it would be a simple matter to influence that direction, though as big as the machine it is, it may be the last thing you ever do. What's going on? Speak the command to activate the machine. There's a shrieking of stone grinding against stone as old cogs loosen begin its turn. You only have moments before the souls will be sent into the Ajabane. This will be your only chance of redirecting him. Turn the souls to the bodies they were intended for. You close your eyes and expand your perception outward, taking in the immense totality of the tens of thousands of souls orbiting the chamber. You grasp on the souls is tenuous. You find yourself fighting to keep them all within your influence, and you can feel them slipping away from you as the machine gains speed. A brief moment comes when it feels as though you hold all of them at once, and their force is so great it feels as though you will be torn to pieces. In that moment, You dedicate your entire being to bending their orbit, channeling their flow in a new direction.
At your command, the ancient device became your instrument, spinning to life with deafening resonance and gathering up the swirling essence like thread on a great spindle. There, in the pale pulsing glow of the machine that set you on this path long ago, you summoned all your strength, focusing on your objective and blocking out all else. With a single concussive blast that rocked the chamber and sent you tumbling to the ground, you freed the souls from their stasis. Exhausted, your consciousness slipping away, your last sight was of the machine, dark and dormant. Then your eyes closed, and sleep welcomed you at long last. After coming to and searching for some time, you discovered the route Thaos used to enter Sun and Shadow, and embarked on a long and arduous ascent back to the surface. You emerged in Ter Evron after days of tunneling through the rubble Thaos had left behind, and when you stepped into the daylight, you were faced with a different Deerwood than the one you had left. At your direction, the souls diverted by Thaos were guided back to the vessels originally meant for them. For the first time, parents of hollow-born children woke to the cries of their infants and looked into their eyes to see them staring back. People fell to their knees where they stood, thanking Helia or Mogren or even Aethys for their forgiveness of whatever guilt they felt they bore. But for all the relief that had come to some parents, others only found new grief. For many thousands of Hollowborn had died during Wideone's legacy, many by their parents' own hands. For those children, there would be no homecoming. Yet the last Hollow birth was in the past now, and those parents willing to risk trying for a new child were frequently rewarded, often with twins. Many felt they saw Helia's hand in it, and the year would be remembered as the year of Helia's splendor. Lord Radric's zeal had brought him back to life once, but it would not do so again. Radric's destruction at your hands spelled the end of his suffocating rule over Gilded Vale and the surrounding area. In his absence, the village prospered, becoming a popular destination for new settlers anxious to leave Defiance Bay after the riots. Without a nearby ruler, it also grew more wild, with many settlers moving on as soon as they'd arrived, turned off by lawlessness that was excessive even by Deerwooden standards. Nevertheless, despite the challenges of living there, Gilded Vale had survived, and would continue to survive for the foreseeable future. Following the assassinations of Duke Avar Wolfgren and Lady Webb, Defiance Bay was thrown into political upheaval. In the ensuing weeks, the streets had become the domain of looters and blackguards. Few dared to step outside their own doors alone or unarmed. But once the dozens had regrouped in the wake of the riots, they quickly put an end to the criminal activity. They patrolled the streets in droves and administered their brand of law on any perceived offenders. This was not the erratic justice of the mob, however. The dozens had taken to heart the strengths of their adversaries, the Knights of the Crucible, and emerged as a far more organized, disciplined force. With the waning strength of the other Defiance Bay powers, the leadership of the dozens took the opportunity to establish its own group as the dominant peacekeeping force in the city. The dozens would soon find themselves overwhelmed by the problems of a leaderless metropolis. But they found an uneasy new partner in the surviving forces of the Crucible Knights, who understood the city's infrastructure and were able to keep the worst of its problems under control. Though the machine atop Ter Noaneth had been disabled, it had not seen its last use. Heritage Hill was rebuilt, and no sooner had the first families moved in to resettle the district than members of the Leaden Key, acting under standing orders from their Grand Master, climbed the tower and reactivated the machine. The initiates slew a handful of the new settlers under cover of night, and watched as history repeated itself, the victims reanimating and devouring the survivors. After this second incident, the district would remain abandoned. The Duke's assassination at the apparent hands of an Animancer had caused catastrophic rioting in the streets of Defiance Bay, and few Animancers survived the first day. In the weeks that followed, Angry citizens, their rage stoked by word that the Duke had been about to ban the practice, formed vigilante mobs and hunted down the survivors. The sanitarium was decorated with the dismembered heads and torsos of those who had practiced the science, and anyone caught studying it thereafter was soon added to the macabre display. The age of animancy in Deerwood had come to an abrupt halt. The town of Deerford had seen the last of the cult of Scan. Dark rumors about the town's many curses quickly faded, and travelers soon returned. The destruction of the Eyeless and the permanent loss of Abidon's memory emboldened Andra. She considered the knowledge that Kith might have found, both of the origin of the gods and her part in concealing it, and vowed that such a calamity must never come to pass. She churned up a fury in her seas. Underwater mountains rose and fell, and the seabed was swallowed and spat out again by the great maws that divide the continents of Kith. Only a fraction of this chaos reached land, but it was enough to swell rivers and spread earthquakes throughout the Deerwood and Air Glanfath. Coastal towns suffered so that few noticed the damage that had been done to Engwithan ruins, from Thane Bog to Twin Elms.
Meanwhile,
Thus, they sealed off the White Forge and abandoned their pursuit of Durgan's steel. Durgan's battery became a trading post once more, and Stalwart thrived in its shadow. Stalwart's revival brought trappers, traders, and artisans from all over the Deerwood, and from Red Ceres too. Prosperity brought peace to the border region, as Deerwoodans and Red Serans alike left old quarrels behind. The battle against the Eyeless left Stalwart more hostile than ever toward the ogres in its midst, and the villagers grew bolder as they grew more prosperous. After a handful of bloody skirmishes, the Flames That Whisper clan left the Russet Wood to seek a quieter, more isolated home in the White March. While many such places existed in the mountains, the crossing was treacherous, and the ogres often found themselves embattled with other clans whose territory they passed. Less than half of the Flames That Whisper survived the journey, but those that did found a haven far from Kith lands. Harmka's death had brought the Devil of Carrick little satisfaction. In time, her taste for vengeance soured. What replaced it was a hunger to feel something, anything, new. Summer had thinned the snowpack twice over when she felt the joint at her elbow first begin to stiffen. She turned her back on the hopes of animancy and civilization and walked east. She pushed through the mountains, past Red Ceres, and into the broad plains of Ishamidl. She had forgotten what it was like to simply journey, no goal or destination in mind. Though she felt nothing more than the steady thump of her feet on the road, the endless horizons and grassy meadows were new to her. She measured her time in the gradual rusting of her body and was satisfied. Her movements slowed, but so did the world around her. Waist-high grasses undulated and tacked in the wind, as gradual as the tides. Sparrows and blackjays made steady pilgrimages across the sky, each flap of their wings a solemn salute. She could hardly move when she found something she had never seen before, the ocean. With the last of her strength, she pulled herself beneath the water, content at last to feel the movement of currents and the constant caress of the waves. The fortress of Cadnua emerged as a bastion of security in the midst of an untamed land, becoming the envy of every thane and earl in Deerwood. Legend grew over time of its impregnability, and stories of formidable invaders easily scattered by the keep's defenses became popular around the hearths of Deerwoodinians. Likewise, it also became a beacon to travelers, merchants, and visiting dignitaries alike. Reputed as the finest fortress in all Deerwood, people would journey from near and distant lands alike to experience its fabled hospitality and grandeur. After the death of the Master below, a strange quiet fell over the endless paths of Ad-Nua. The attacks on the fortress above ceased, Ad-Nua's silent titan the closest remaining thing to a master,
in its musty, forgotten passages. Pallegina had gone against the Duke Spell's orders by inventing a new trade arrangement with the Anamenfath to accommodate the recovering Deerwooden market. With the Deerwood's people still weakened by Weidman's legacy, the Valian republics easily pushed their would-be competitors out of the market. For her outrageous insubordination and audacity, Pallegina was banished from the republics. She traveled north in the Eastern Reach, avoiding Valian ports and entering the ranks of the kind wayfarers. Despite her bravery and dedication to those in her care, her strange appearance made her feel like an outsider wherever she went. Adair chose not to return home to Gilded Vale. Through a number of quiet inquiries, he soon found his way into the underground organization of Aethasians known as the Night Market. Ironically, in learning that the gods had been fabricated, Adair found his faith in Aethus renewed, and that his god was neither alive nor truly a god had become irrelevant. He rose quickly through the ranks of the Night Market for his optimism and for his bold leadership, his ultimate goal to make the Deerwood a place that would welcome followers of the Shining God once again. When the dust settled in Sun and Shadow, Aloth looked upon the remains of Thaos Ix Arkannon, his former master. He saw where the Grandmaster had gone wrong, and what would be required to undo the harm Thaos had wrought. With a flick of his wrist, he burned Thaos's robe, headdress, and every other symbol of the man's power. Never again, he vowed, should Kith live in fear and blind obedience to an authority they did not understand. Armed with the knowledge and courage he had gained on his journeys with the Watcher, he set out on the long and lonely task of dismantling the Leaden Key.
Yes.
With the Watcher's goals accomplished and his own vows fulfilled, Kanarua sailed back to Dakoa. His friends and family found him much changed, for a pall had fallen upon the man, smothering his former enthusiasm. Called before the Lore College, Kana told them of the pain the Engwithan legacy brought to the lands abroad. He insisted that a search for answers abroad could only fragment the Rawatai people, as it had done to the Deerwood. His findings were met with much respect, and Kanarua's voice came to be considered an influential one in the growing move towards Rawatai's isolation. With Thaos defeated and the souls released from Sun and Shadow, healthy children were born once again in the Deerwood. Pleasant and peaceful memories rose to fill the cracks in the grieving mother's mind. She returned to the birthing bell, unaware that the village nearby had become an empty desolation in her absence. Thus she began her tireless vigil atop the Adra, awaiting mothers and children who never came. Durrance used Magrin's strength only until Thaos had been cast from the world, and then swore off her influence entirely. Regret came to weigh heavily on his mind, and a man who had never previously lacked for words or opinions came to embrace silence and contemplation. He continued to wander, penniless and destitute, searching now not for the reason for his goddess's silence, but for a mechanism for revenge. The charred robes he continued to wear as a reminder that he had been burned by his goddess, and not just by the flames of the Godhammer. Sagani experienced the 4 months of her journey back to Masuk in vivid colors. She strove to memorize every moment of her final trip through the Deerwood, Erglonfoth, the Valian republics, and beyond, preparing to tell her village of what she had seen on her long journey. All of Masuk shared in her triumph, and she felt her pride and elation magnified by the joy of her village. Never again did she doubt the value of her sacrifices. After decades as a long hunter, Sagani finally became one of Masuk's most respected elders. She guided her community with wise counsel, and a generation after she finally passed, another huntress journeyed into the world to find her soul. For you, the death of Thaos brought an end to your waking visions, and a silence to the whispers of the past. In their absence, you were able to sleep. The questions of a distant lifetime ceased to trouble your soul. All that remained was what to make of the answer. But at the moment, there was little to be done, and the matter would have to wait. A long journey loomed ahead.
that's all, everyone. This is Erik Malkavian, and this has been my presentation of Pillars of Eternity, the complete edition, brought to you by Obsidian Entertainment. And there's the team. Thank you for watching.